Affordable housing is not just young people.
I think there's a misconception of what affordable housing is, and is it open to someone like us?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And is it free?
It is.
Good morning, Colleen. We're so excited to have you today.
I'm excited to be here.
Our
Thank you.
podcast.
I'm nervous too. This is my first podcast.
So Colleen,
I don't know what I'm doing.
Colleen Drewes from NRP. You're the Vice President of Housing for New Jersey.
Correct.
This is awesome. So Omar and I are always talking about new developers, and we want to hear about how you got into development.
Sure.
And we want to especially talk about today how to build an affordable housing community. So take it off. What is it? First of all, what is an affordable housing community?
Sure. I think affordable housing in the state of affordable housing across the board has a bad stigma. Because when you say affordable housing, often municipal officials or residents will think, NIMBY, not my backyard. I do not want that. Then when you think of affordable housing, you think, and I hate to say it, the 1960s ugly brick public housing authority buildings.
Projects.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And you have concerns with public safety and how is this going to impact my school system and are these folks going to, play with my kids? And so there's large concerns. And I think the goal of one of the takeaways of this podcast will to be explain the role of affordable housing in New Jersey and the need for it in a high cost state that we live in. Affordable housing can range from, your 20% area median income, which sometimes is comprised of individuals with special needs that need to be able to live independently with the social services provided. That's affordable housing. Affordable housing can be comprised of 60% area median income, and that could be your teachers and your nurses and your grocery store employees, all those frontline workers that had to put themselves out there to work in the pandemic.
So Omar, we're building a regular project.
Yeah.
But what was our affordable housing contribution? How did that work for our project?
The fee we have a requirement for based on the number of units we build. A certain percentage has to be affordable units.
Was it 10% or something like that?
10%, yeah. And we have an option. Developers have an option whether to build those units or pay into the affordable housing fund. And depending on the finances of the building, as much as we'd love to have significant affordable housing units, the pro forma has to make sense. So if the pro forma in a market value doesn't pencil out, you have the option to pay into the fund. Got it.
So we were able to buy out our apartments and give that money to a fund at the city. Right. And then the city does the city give you money like that?
I was going to thank you because your contribution is going to help my development that's going up in a 100% affordable housing community. A majority of the units are at 60% AMI. There is a special needs set aside that will be determined, and we'll work in collaboration with the city on the need. But thank you.
You're welcome.
So I didn't know that. I used to always wonder what does that fund go towards.
Sure.
But now we know because I thought it was just set aside for when it was needed, but I didn't know it went towards.
Well, I was told that it was to rehab older projects, so to speak.
It might be they might have a dedication towards that. I just know in my conversations with the city, and hopefully I still have it, that there is money set aside for our project in the event we have some cost overruns.
So let's talk about what is considered affordable housing. So for me, I grew up in a, middle income area, but we had a nice house in a great town, and my parents got divorced. So fortunately, my dad was willing to let us stay in the nice house until both my brother and I graduated high school. But then the problem came in. Now, my mother didn't really work. So where do we go now? And the town that we lived in, it was very hard to move around in. And I always thought, to me, affordable housing would have been something great for her to go into, like after that divorce, because so we could stay. Like, what if I couldn't stay in that town because my dad wasn't as nice as he was? What would happen?
That's absolutely correct, Eric. I mean, there's a large population of divorced women that reside in affordable housing communities. And to that end, there are social services that you want to provide to give these folks the quality living and give them the independence to embrace, a certain quality of living. So within each affordable housing community, we have an obligation to our residents to provide these social services, of which, did you know, under a certain area median income, a resident can receive free tuition to any community college. So to that end, it's not known. So to that end, you want to bring this information into the building, and you want to, have.
So it's like a community. It's not just getting a less expensive apartment to stay somewhere, but you're getting all these additional services.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yep. We have financial literacy training. We have a summer reading program for the children, and that if we get a nice healthy donation, we can provide them with the Kindles at the end of the season for completing it.
Okay. So it's almost like you're taking people that could be going down the wrong path because they don't have a place to really stabilize themselves from a community that we're in, and you're giving them like a whole base to grow with.
A lot of the communities will have a community garden component. We can partner with a local hospital and provide wellness and nutritious counseling to the residents.
Wow.
So that's just one piece of the whole affordable housing gamut.
So typically, what are the income requirements? Like, I know for us, we have very strict requirements for a non-affordable.
Okay.
So why don't, Omar, you tell us how do you make a decision whether or not to put somebody into a non-affordable, and then you tell us how a decision is made for an affordable.
Sure. So, market rate units are typically 3 times, the income has to be 3 times the monthly rent. That's a standard credit check, background check, etc. That's market unit. But as far as affordable units, I'm assuming it doesn't work just based on income.
So let's dumb that down. So if I want to spend $1,000 a month on an apartment, I need to make $3,000 a month.
Correct.
Okay, before taxes
we look at the debt to income ratio too. So it's not just a solid, just a number, but credit score, background check, any evictions. It's a pretty rigorous screening.
And a lot of people can't pass that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Same with affordable housing. We do have the credit score. We do have the background check. And we do have the, what was the third you said?
Income?
Debt to income ratio?
Okay, so we don't necessarily have the debt to income ratio.
Okay.
But when you're talking about someone with 60% AMI that's residing in Bergen County, you're looking at an average salary of $80,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that per the family or per one person in the household?
That is per the household income, and that's all available on the state of New Jersey's website. If you go to the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, every year they release the different household income ranges.
If there's a husband and a wife and each of them make $40,000, that's $80,000. So then what is a rent number for that? Like, what would that apartment be renting for?
Sure. An apartment.
General ideas.
Well, the state of New Jersey is very diverse in terms of Bergen County versus Cumberland County.
So let's pick a project in Bergen County that you're familiar with.
Yep.
So what is an asking rent for like a 2-bedroom affordable in Bergen County?
I would think it would be between
let's say
1,800 and 2,000 per rent.
So someone with $80,000, right? So that wouldn't qualify in your program.
No, it would. 1,800. Let's 80,000 is what? Let's say 8,000 a month.
So
9,000 a month.
Times,
So
if
it would
you round it
qualify.
out to 2, that's 6,000 times 12.
70. No,
That's 70. That's $68,000. So that would actually qualify for your 18. But your apartment, it wouldn't be 1,800. Your 2-bedroom
would be about $3,000.
It would be $3,000.
Yeah. So part of it is people. I think there's a misconception of what affordable housing is because I've had friends ask me, why don't developers build affordable housing? Because they are under the impression that developers overcharge their rent, so it's not affordable. But we have to meet our pro formas and financial obligations.
Well, I don't know that anybody's overcharging. It's the market rate.
Right.
Everybody wants market, whatever the market will bear.
But go ahead.
The misconception is why don't they charge less? Because they want to maximize their profits. We don't charge less.
Why would anyone charge less?
Because
you put all that time and effort to building a project,
which is true. So you have to hit your profit numbers,
right,
but it's not as though we have an option to charge less because the numbers have to make sense, right? And a lot of people don't understand that. So affordable housing, the financing is different altogether.
And I think that's key. You hit it because the financial vehicles in place are under the New Jersey's jurisdiction, the federal jurisdiction. You're talking about low-income housing tax credits. You're talking about the Aspire program under the authority.
So let's talk about that. So low-income housing tax credit and Aspire program.
Yeah.
Where is this money coming from? Is this from our governor in New Jersey, or is this from a charity, or is this from the money that the developer's paying?
Sure. No, this is both. I mean, the low-income housing tax credits comes from the federal government, and you have your 4% low-income housing tax credit and your 9% low-income housing tax credit. 9% is a very competitive process, very rigorous. Not a lot of deals get funded, so I think that's why most developers will take the path of going the 4% route, which is provided by the volume cap. Each state is provided a certain amount of a volume cap to every year. And this volume cap can go towards the American dream. I mean, that ate up a lot of volume cap one year.
Sure.
Don't quote me. Don't quote me what governor that was, but
it's been so many governors.
Yes, exactly. So anyway,
New Jersey,
you know, the administration will say, we're going to dedicate X amount of volume cap every year to the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, and that's up to their discretion to have and to have get these projects that are shovel ready in a pipeline and award them these funds so they can start the construction.
Okay, so you got two novices in construction, right? So Omar and I are building our first construction.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. So now we have the flavor, we have the taste, so we want to build more, right?
Yeah.
So now we hear free money from the government. So how do we go after this free money? What gets someone like us to go after this free money?
And is it open to someone like us?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And is it free?
It is. And
do people have businesses that specialize in just going after this free money?
There's many firms across the state of New Jersey that are specialize in affordable housing. My firm, the NRP Group, is based in Cleveland, Ohio. Across the country, we have 55,000 units.
Wow.
Of which 2/3 are affordable or mixed income.
Yeah.
But I would say there's 15 other affordable housing developers that are active in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah, but I know your boss, Jonathan. He's really cool, so he's probably the best out of all of them, right?
Of course. Of course he is.
But so how do we go
any
after,
municipality would want
how do we
NRP to come
compete
in.
with you?
Yeah, so I've looked into the basic online information of how we can get access to it, but it just seems like it's overwhelming.
It is very overwhelming, and that's why you have to surround yourself with a project team of people that know what they're doing and have navigated their process before. I still don't know what I'm doing, and I used to work for the Housing Mortgage Finance Agency.
So it's a learning curve that just keeps going.
Yep.
So do we give up and say we can't go after these grants? Do we try?
No.
Is it only for big projects?
No, absolutely not. I think you and I have a friend that recently applied for his first tax credit project in Mercer County, and this was his first opportunity to build affordable housing. He has not done this before, but like I said,
let's say there's a site that's available is it designated for affordable housing to start with?
Not necessarily. So when I do a site selection, I love to go after municipal assets, especially underutilized municipal assets.
So when you say municipal assets, that's a plot of land the city owns and doesn't know what to do with?
Exactly. Say you and I are driving around and we go downtown and we see an empty parking lot. Why wouldn't you approach the city and say, let's make a better use of this site?
So now this is a site, city-owned site that's probably not generating any taxes.
Yeah.
Right. So so not all municipalities have the foresight to think, oh, I can do something more with this. So you're saying you go to a city, you look at their sites or their assets, and you're like, hey, by the way, we could do so much more with this than you're doing.
Yep.
So do you get a lot of pushback, or do people mostly jump on board and say, great idea, Colleen?
Well, no, I don't think there's a lot of pushback at all, especially when you see that this could be, advantageous to the municipality. The state of New Jersey has a whole portfolio of underutilized parcels of land that they own, whether it's under the Department of Transportation's jurisdiction.
So it's not just a local.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
You even have public universities that have underutilized pieces of land.
So then, what are the tax benefits surrounding that? Is there a tax benefit? It's strictly for you as a developer. Is it helping you make more money than as if you were building normal houses like market rate? Do any of those tax benefits get passed on to the town that's allowing you to build it, or do the tax benefits get passed on to the actual
The company.
tenant or whoever? Like what
Sure.
is the tax benefit overall and who benefits?
Well, under the guidelines of the low-income housing tax credits, we are supposed to build our building at a certain level, quality level. So, and it's in our interest to build that. So you have your design team and your development team, then you have your construction, and then you have your management. So management, at the end of the day, part of our company is responsible for the maintenance, and it's in their interest that we build a quality building.
Okay.
So to your point, the benefit does get passed back to the company, but it is in our, because of the low-income housing tax credits guidelines, we have to build a certain level of energy efficiency. So for example, there's a pot of funding that I'm applying for, and I have to, in order to be awarded this funding, I have to do zero home energy.
Okay.
Which is a certain level of...
So my utility bill's free because it doesn't use any energy?
No, but the efficiency of the building gets passed back on
Okay.
to the end user.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, that's only one base. So by what
Yes.
you're saying is when you start applying for one of these tax benefits for an affordable, there's so many different buckets that you can go after.
Yes.
So how do you as the developer make the money? Because if you're charging lower rents, so you have to collect enough of this so-called free money or tax benefit money, because you don't have to pay any of that money back, right? It's all yours. Like when the state gives you money, does that goes into the project?
It goes right directly into the project.
So it's not like you're
and the
giving it
overall-
back.
Yes, correct.
At least we don't think so. So where
overall cash
is the
flow.
benefit? The benefit is where exactly?
So if you and I were to go out and pick a site to develop, let's say we wanted to put 40 units up, we have to make sure the land acquisition, rents, financing, everything adds up.
Yep.
And the refinance at the end of the project makes sense. Our finishes are in line with the numbers we need. But with affordable housing, because of the tax credits, it's a whole different way of looking at the financing.
Yes, it is.
And that's why they could charge lower rents. But I guess at what point, how do you know upfront what you're getting for this piece of land in order to make sense?
Well, and that's kind of how we analyze in our site selection. And this is how I met my good friend Eric. So Eric had a site, very desirable location, 0.1 from the train station in town.
Okay.
And we looked at it, what the asking price was, and we worked with the city in terms of their parking requirements and how many units we could yield. And we came to an agreement with the seller, and we could basically, after running many, many performas, we figured out the cost per door to be able to afford this acquisition price
Right.
Yep.
and move forward with our financing applications.
And it was a struggle because
It was.
affordable housing can't pay the same amount of money that market rate housing can pay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So your team, because I represented obviously the transaction, so to speak, because I represented the seller.
Yep.
But then I brought you as a buyer, and then my goal was to make everybody not happy, but do a deal.
Absolutely.
And it was back and forth. I mean, I remember that the sellers were beating me up. They want more money, and then Colleen was beating me up, and then Colleen's boss really
Try not to.
brought the tank and rolled over me, and it was just back and forth, and finally, we came to a realization that this was what the city wanted, and we knew we could get it approved, and then we were able to go and I think get everybody on board. But it was a struggle.
There
It
was
took
a
long
lot
time.
of moving parts, Eric, because at the same time, it not only are we, we're trying to build a relationship with the city, and we want to put forth a product that they're going to be comfortable with.
Yeah.
So when we had our first presentation to them, they're like, "Your parking's way too low."
Yeah.
And from a management standpoint, we did agree with them because you don't want on-street parking. It's going to lead to vandalism and everything. So we agreed.
Really?
So then, based on the the parking requirements and the number of units that we thought we could yield, we finally came to an agreement. And then talk about going back and forth. Okay, can we still afford to pay this price per
Yeah.
door?
Yeah.
And then we have to go after the soft funds, which could be the city's municipal housing trust
That
fund.
free money.
The free money.
The $3
The
million,
free money.
yeah.
Is
So-
that going to be our hashtag? Free money.
Free money for affordable housing. But it just seems so. I've
It is a very
represented so many developers and sellers of big parcels
Sure.
and done a ton of developments, and I
Yeah.
have to say that affordable. The negotiation for the affordable has been probably one of the most difficult out of my
Seems that way.
I would
career.
agree. And
Yeah.
even from a design perspective. So now we're in the process of getting the site into a redevelopment plan. And there are certain expectations that the market rate developments have, design elements, facade
Right.
improvements.
So the redevelopment plan versus your regular zoning is when you get special treatment for that area.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that special treatment allows you to change some of the regular zoning rules that would happen, which then allows you to build more in theory, and it allows it to be different because affordable units have different rules. Like you said, they may not have to be as big, or they could be smaller than a typical unit.
Yep. And at the same time, there's there's a certain level of expectation, and so it's a design thing. You're going back and forth saying, X percentage of this building has to be covered in a primary material.
Yeah.
And if coming from an affordable housing product, we can't necessarily provide that and make the deal work.
Got it.
So it is an ongoing conversation with the powers to be in terms of how can we come to an agreement and put forth a quality
So there's
product.
so many masters, so to speak.
So many.
You have your city telling you they want gorgeous green spaces with full brick and
Parking,
fountains,
plenty
and
of parking. Yeah.
Then you have the developer, because there's owners of this, right? There's
Correct.
in theory there are investors.
Yes, we have an
at some
investment
point.
committee that we have to present to
Okay.
multiple times throughout this process.
And those investors want to make money.
Yes.
And then you have the actual deal, which the deal has to make money.
Yes.
And then you probably, I'm assuming, the state or whoever's giving you this money has their own regulations.
Absolutely. So when we submit our application to the Economic Development Authority and the HMFA, there is a whole binder of requirements that they provide. I mean, not only from a legal perspective, but from a location perspective. Does this make sense from a site selection standpoint?
Yeah.
Are you putting an affordable housing community next to a warehouse? Is that appropriate? Probably not.
Depends, yeah.
Design perspective. There's a whole technical services division down at the state that they are going to go through all of your construction documents and make sure you're adhering to their requirements.
And then the rules today are people want it to look nice, right?
Correct.
So they don't want the ugly stuff from years
We
ago.
don't want 1960s ugly brick architecture.
So you're almost like creating like the IKEA, because IKEA is really cool stuff at an affordable price.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're creating. You're
But
the
then-
IKEA of developers.
But then think about it. Are you building the same product in suburban areas as you are in urban areas?
I would think not, because you have
Correct.
more land in an urban area.
More
right?
land in an
in
urban
a suburban area, and then
Higher
so you have more
expectations.
sprawl.
Or lower density, so you're not yielding the same
Okay.
amount of units, and then you're doing surface parking. So based on the parking requirements, how many units can you actually yield?
Yeah.
That's a great question. So can you just give me like the 5 simple steps? So Omar and I we decided we're doing affordable. Yay.
Yep.
What do we do first? What are the top 5 steps? What do
Sure.
we do?
Starting with site selection, because you mentioned New Jersey has a whole source of pre-selected sites.
That's a separate note. I mean, they have a directory of all underutilized pieces of land.
So step 1, find the site.
Find the site.
Okay.
All right. Step 2, if you have to negotiate with the seller. And the seller, I do want to note that throughout this process, the seller and the buyer are almost in a marriage together. I mean, it requires constant communication.
And the broker's the divorce attorney.
Yes, exactly. I hope it doesn't come
Sorry.
to that.
The marital counselor. Let's change it.
That's right.
I'm the marriage counselor.
I like that. So anyway, identify the site. Form your project team. I think it is important to select your project team based on the relationships that they have with that municipality. You want someone that's going to be able to walk right into the municipal hall and say, hey, I have this permit. I need this filed immediately. Just the existing relationships is everything.
Okay.
And that includes your land use council, your civil, and your architect.
Okay.
Okay, so that's step 3.
That's step 3.
You've done all those steps so far.
Good.
Yeah, in a different capacity.
Okay.
Smaller sites are easier to find, but this is a whole process.
Step 4,
Yeah.
you run your performa. That probably should have been done back at
Yeah.
step 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you run your performa. And what are our sources of funding here? What is our path?
Hold on, pro forma.
Pro forma.
What's a pro forma?
The financial breakdown of the rents, income, and expenses to make sure the project is feasible.
Yeah, I hate that part. I
Yeah.
don't want to do that for
Tedious.
me. I hate math.
Then when you see that ugly gap,
Yeah.
What is my path forward
Right.
in finding a solution for that gap?
So step 4 is find the gap solutions,
Yes.
which are your...
It could be county home funds. It could be the municipal housing trust fund. It could be special needs housing trust fund that's available at the state. The Housing Mortgage Finance Agency has what's called the Housing Production Fund. But within that, they have a certain level of requirements. That particular program in general, your project must be in the settlement agreement.
Okay.
So let's add this step to it. Now we have to, use our affordable housing consultant and ask them if it's not in the settlement agreement. Let's get this. Can we get the settlement agreement amended to get this project in so we can qualify for this
Oh my God, you're
source
blowing
of
my
soft
mind.
funds?
So
Okay.
how many was that? That was like 5?
Yeah. So the pro forma, if we were to make the pro forma, we'd get the basic expected rent, expenses, etc. And then we'd figure out, all right, we can't use traditional financing for this, so what other sources of funds can we bring into this? And then it's a matter of making all these phone calls to these different funding
Correct.
sources.
Yep.
And seeing what type of, capital stack we could bring in.
Yep. And now
Okay.
we're going to go back because in order to qualify for this funding, we need to get the site plan approval.
Okay.
So now I'm going to go back to my marriage and I'm going to say, hey, I might be delayed because I have X, Y, and Z lined up for funding, but prior to that, I have to get my site plan approval and my resolution of need awarded from the city.
And your marriage says they want the baby out now.
Correct.
Time to happen.
Yep.
And you're
9
like,
months
"No,
later."
We need to take this
Make it
pregnancy
happen,
and
Captain.
make it 12 months, not 9 months.
Yes.
And that's where the shit hits the fan.
Yes. So I think it's
Got it.
important to be in constant communication
Okay.
with the seller just
So,
to manage
so
expectations.
those are your basic 5 steps.
Moving forward,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
beyond.
Sounds like a lot of steps
It
to
is.
me.
Well,
But I haven't heard, it sounded like you mentioned at least 6 different grant opportunities.
Yes.
So what,
Yep. All require.
what do you think? There's 10, 20 different opportunities out there, or?
It depends on the municipality, and you have your federal home loan bank, you have your county home dollars, you have what's called the hospital partnership program, you have what's called the housing production fund.
Did you know any? I didn't know any.
I didn't. But now I'm wondering if we need a capital stack of some sort and we approach one of these agencies and say we have a 40 unit that we'd like to put up.
Sure.
Are they open to listening to us? Are they think that's great, we want to be involved? Or is that a whole...
That's where your charm comes in.
That's right. That's where you enter
That's
the
why Colleen
HMFA.
goes out, because everybody listens.
I bet, yeah. So we need Colleen if we're going to do this. And how does that capital stack even work?
Sure.
Is it one person one agency that comes in, or is it...
Multiple. So
Multiple,
you're gonna
okay.
call the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself. Say I have 40 units located here. Where's my checklist? Where's my UniApp application?
Got it.
I'm gonna start filling this
Wow.
out.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to they're governed obviously by a board. So
Yeah.
you're gonna once you get all your application, which could be about 1,500 pages.
Wow.
They're nice. You can submit it via Leap file. You don't have to submit it
Okay.
hard copy like in pre-COVID years.
So now, we talked about having investors, right? So we go to banks for our construction financing.
Yes.
We also have our major investors, which are us, right? You go to banks also for construction financing.
Correct.
On top of your traditional investors.
Exactly.
So same kind of background
Yep.
stuff. So how do you get those banks to trust what the hell's going on with these grants? Now, do you go to a special bank that deals with grants?
A lot of the banks that we work with, and particularly they're, they have folks dedicated that know the affordable housing realm, and will be able to. You walk in, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
So they know the lingo, they know the projects, and a lot of the challenges with the state programs is they're written through legislation. So, for example, the Aspire program through the Economic Development Authority. In theory, it's a large pot of funding that isn't expected to run out until maybe 2029.
Wow.
However, the Economic Development Authority is charged with this legislation, but now they can't figure out how to close. So a lot of these developers are spending a lot of money on these bridge loans each month.
Oh, because the money's not ready for them.
Correct.
So what happens if the money's never ready, or
Well,
it has to be ready?
They're working through the process now. I
Nice.
believe they've had 2 closings so far.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but hopefully it'll start to expedite the process once they have a couple under their belt.
So the bridge loan scenario, who's giving them that bridge loan? And that's the money
another great question. You have to find an investor that is comfortable with this program and is saying, oh yes, I'm familiar with Aspire. I am going to get paid back.
So that's like the gap. Bridge loan is like the gap.
Right. So when you say investor, you mean a private individual, or is that
it would be a TD Bank. It would be a Hudson Housing Capital.
TD Bank.
So TD
Bank of
Bank
America, Citi.
To get you from your start.
They may
to your
argue
finish
that they
until
don't.
The funding comes in from the Aspire.
I've
loan.
heard a lot of these banks are working with developers.
Okay. And is that a easy acquisition, a bridge loan?
I doubt it.
I have not crossed that bridge yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So does NRP require financing from bridge loans because the Aspire program isn't out yet? Isn't paying yet?
The Aspire program is out. We have not. Yes. At the particular stage we're at with our project is we're putting together the funding.
You don't have to say. I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Don't get me in trouble. Don't get me fired.
But I think it's similar to traditional financing, where the primary bank has the first position on it.
Yes.
And then what?
I'm sorry. HMFA requires first position on their loans.
And are they they're the primary financing
Correct.
arm? Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming they have a more competitive rate for these developments.
They don't, but it's more advantageous to go with the HMFA in terms of the tax credit.
Tax credits.
So first position is the first lien on the property. Have you ever seen any of these programs fall apart where someone's actually going after a project that's like half built and foreclosing and all that kind of stuff?
There is a collection of delinquent assets that the agency has financed.
Okay. What do they do with them?
That was not in my wheelhouse when I was at
How do we go out? We need to go after those.
Yeah, and you can. Distressed assets.
Okay.
And I've seen a couple projects turned around by very reputable developers as a result.
So they'll come in, somebody that screws it up.
Yeah.
And they'll fix it and make it
transfer
amazing.
of ownership and Yep.
Does NRP do distressed assets too?
Not in New Jersey. I can't speak for other areas of the country.
So can I say that you love affordable housing?
I like the challenge.
Okay.
I like the pursuit.
And also, as you mentioned, meeting the needs.
Meeting the needs.
Has, right?
Seeing the end product.
Yeah.
And the residents enjoy
Yeah.
their home is important.
So what I love about it is really the fact that it gives the opportunity to keep families together, going back to the divorce. And there's so many people today. I think the divorce rate is over like 60% in this country. And
from what I hear,
I feel that the kids always suffer.
Yep.
And even though these fancy towns don't want affordable housing, I think that what comes around goes around. Eventually, whoever's voting against it, God forbid they get divorced, they're not going to be able to live in that town. And this gives them an option.
And I'd like to also highlight another population of affordable housing is the senior population, the 55 and over. And they're your folks that want to age in place. So they're getting priced out in that expensive town that they raise their family in. But their son and daughter need them to be home for when their children get off the bus in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So where are they going to live? And that's why it's very important to provide them with quality, affordable housing. Plus, they're an economic generator. These folks are going to spend money in your downtown. They're going to go to the diner for the early bird special. They're going to utilize your local pharmacy. So they are another important factor. And,
so there's two. So affordable housing is not just young people.
Correct.
Seniors.
Yep.
So
you have your age restricted. According
to
the Fair Share housing, you have your age restricted population, which is your seniors, 55 and over, 65 and over in some cases, and then you have your non-age restricted population.
So is there any affordable housing that is for like VA or government-based
Oh,
stuff?
yes. There's a whole veterans set. We have a supportive housing division, which includes, but is not limited to, homeless veterans, homeless individuals with developmental disabilities.
So this is like a whole world.
Question in regards to just how does it, from what I understand, some cities don't want or don't allow affordable housing. So if you're in an affluent area and you have seniors over there who need to downgrade, or whatever the case might be, how do you get past a city that has no affordable housing and the closest urban city, for example, maybe 20, 30 miles away?
Then it goes to the courts.
To the courts.
And the courts will decide, and they'll come in and they'll identify, hey, X municipality, you are not meeting your affordable housing obligations.
Okay.
And there's been some big suits on that.
So that's from what I understand, that's a recent change where these cities are required to meet the requirements.
Yeah.
Okay.
From what I hear. But can't you trade, like a town can trade housing with another town or something?
Back many moons ago,
Okay.
you had what's called a regional contribution agreement. So it would be, say, take an urban center and your surrounding suburban communities. Those suburban communities could give their contribution in a monetary form to the urban center to put their obligation in that urban center.
Got it. So if you're like a fancy town with $4 million mansions everywhere,
Correct,
and there's
and
really
you-
nowhere to
Not
build
in your
affordable,
backyard.
you could just give some money to another. Can you still do that, or do they?
You cannot. No, that is no longer
nice.
allowed by the courts.
Okay.
So,
As of when? Was that something recent?
that's
or?
a great question. I want to say it probably ended in the 90s.
So we're
90s,
gonna
okay.
we're gonna be knocking down some $1 million mansions for affordable housing.
Another I would say guiding force for affordable housing and where the state's priorities lie is called the Qualified Allocation Plan. The last Qualified Allocation Plan was probably in 2019. Now it is anticipated a new Qualified Allocation Plan will come out in tomorrow. Actually, it's being voted on at the Housing Mortgage Finance Agency board meeting, and that sets forth the priorities. And it's really interesting to look back through the different governors' administrations and identify where their priorities lied. So in this last QAP that came out in 2019, they really put a lot of pressure or a lot of emphasis on the suburban municipalities, saying there's not enough here, but at the same time, you need access to public transportation. If you're going to qualify for these tax credits, your site needs to be specifically with a 9% tax credit round, which is highly competitive. You need to be, in order to score well, you need to be close to public transit, close to a grocery store, close to houses of worship, close to school systems. How does the school system rank? That'll get you more points.
How did you learn all this stuff?
Yeah.
By making a lot of mistakes.
Well, I haven't seen you make one, so I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Your check's in the
And
mail.
we look forward to having you back and to hear the progress as you go through this. I think that I don't know, Omar, do you want to build affordable housing? 'Cause I'm not sure I do.
I think a standard market rate is overwhelming right now, but we'll work our way through it. We have Colleen now, so.
Yes, but Colleen from NRP.
Thank you.
awesome.
This was fun. Thank you
Thanks
for
for
having
sharing
me.
this.
I feel honored.
Go affordable.
Thanks for watching this episode. Now don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And we'll see you next time.